Men chase symbols of power, the scepter, the title, the corner office. They believe power is a fortress to be built, a throne to be seized, a weapon to be held. This is a fatal misunderstanding. The most devastating force on earth is not something you can hold. It is a condition. It is an absence. Think of the absolute zero of deep space. It does not attack. It does not hate. It is a void of heat so profound that any star, any engine, any life that enters it is stripped of its warmth instantly and utterly. This is the state you must cultivate within yourself, a psychological zero point. When you eradicate fear, you do not become a better warrior. You become a hostile environment for the fearful. You are no longer a person who makes threats. You are the chilling silence in the room that makes everyone else's threats sound like children's games. They are built for warmth, for approval, for hope, for mercy. You will offer none. Your power comes not from what you will do to them, but from the simple, terrifying fact of what you are, an environment in which their weaknesses cannot survive. This has created a fundamental division in the physics of human interaction. There are now two distinct states of being, the conductor and the reactor. The reactor is the default state of man. He is a vessel of chemical potential, waiting for an external catalyst. An insult makes him angry, a compliment makes him proud, a threat makes him afraid. His entire existence is a series of uncontrolled reactions to his environment. He is defined not by what he is, but by what is done to him. He burns through his energy, his focus, his very identity, leaving behind nothing but the useless ash of his emotional responses. He believes he is alive because he feels everything, but he is merely being consumed by the fire. The conductor is the man who has reached the zero point. He does not react. He transmits. Like a superconductor cooled to absolute zero, he allows power to flow through him with no resistance, no heat, no loss. He is not a source of energy. He is a perfect channel for it. When confronted with an insult, he does not feel anger. He observes a data point. When faced with a threat, he does not feel fear. He calculates a variable. He is not a participant in the chaotic chemical reactions around him. He is the circuit board on which they are allowed to happen, or not. This is the central problem you face. You are, by design, a reactor. Your instincts, your ego, your biology are all wired to burn. The path to power is not about learning to react better. It is a transformation of matter. You must choose, remain a volatile chemical, consumed by the slightest spark, or become the immutable conductor through which the world's energy is controlled. One is a slave to physics, the other commands it. You are a reactor because you have fundamentally misunderstood who or what is in control. You believe the anger, the fear, the pride you feel is your own. You think when you are insulted, it is you who has been attacked. This is the primary illusion that keeps you weak. You are not a single entity. You are a host. And living inside your consciousness is a parasite. This parasite is your ego. It is not you. It is a separate primitive organism that has fused itself to your awareness. Its entire existence is dedicated to its own survival, and its food is external validation. Your need for approval, your craving for status, your terror of embarrassment, this is not your ambition speaking. It is the hunger of the parasite. Every time you react, you are not defending yourself. You are feeding the creature. An insult from a rival does not threaten your physical safety or your strategic position. It threatens the parasite's social standing. The flash of rage you feel is the parasite secreting chemicals into your mind, demanding that you protect its food source. The fear of public speaking is not a fear of a crowd. It is the parasite's terror that it will be starved of admiration and force-fed ridicule. Your entire emotional life is a frantic effort to keep this entity placated. The reactor lives in a state of constant, low-grade infection. He makes decisions not to advance his goals, but to soothe the parasite. He avoids risks not because they are unwise, but because failure would wound the parasite's fragile sense of importance. He seeks consensus not because it leads to a better outcome, but because the parasite craves the warmth of acceptance. He is a man perpetually held hostage by the needs of an invisible dependent. He thinks he is protecting his identity, when in fact he is sacrificing his power to a biological program. This is the diagnosis of your weakness. Your reactions are not a sign of life. They are the symptoms of a disease. The conductor understands this. He has initiated a brutal process of psychological deparasitizing. He has systematically starved the ego of the validation it needs to survive. He has learned to observe insults, threats, and praise as a doctor observes a patient's chart, as pure information, stripped of all emotional significance. When an event occurs, there is no secondary entity inside him screaming to be fed or defended. There is only the cold, clear processing of the host. You cannot become a conductor by negotiating with the parasite. You cannot reason with it, tame it, or train it. Its entire nature is to consume your energy for its own survival. The path to power is not self-improvement. It is an extermination. You must identify this foreign entity within you and recognize every reactive instinct, every jolt of fear, every surge of pride, every sting of shame, as its attempt to maintain control. You are weak, not because you feel these things, but because you mistakenly believe that you are the one feeling them. The cost of this infection is not merely the energy it consumes. It is the signal it broadcasts. The parasite's desperate need for validation makes you an open book to men who have learned to read. Your emotional reactions are not your own. They are the parasite's behavioral tics. And these tics are a map for your enemies. Men of power, the true conductors, are not just free of their own parasite. They are apex predators who have learned to hunt by detecting the parasite in others. Think of yourself as a compromised system. The parasite is a backdoor in your psychological firewall, left wide open. When a rival offers you carefully engineered praise, it is not a gift. It is a probe, testing the parasite's hunger for approval. He is mapping your vulnerabilities. When an opponent subtly questions your status in a group, he is not attacking you. He is applying pressure to the parasite, observing how it makes you flinch, how it forces you to overcompensate and reveal your strategic hand. Your need for comfort, your fear of embarrassment, your craving for respect. These are not aspirations. They are the exposed wires of your operating system. The conductor sees these wires. He does not need to guess your next move, because the parasite dictates it. He knows you will choose the path that placates the creature, not the one that leads to victory. You will sacrifice a long-term advantage for a moment of social relief. You will accept a bad deal to avoid the parasite's terror of conflict. The ultimate price of being a host is this: you are perpetually exploitable. You walk through a world of hunters with a permanent bleeding wound that only they can see. Every decision you believe is yours is, in fact, a negotiation with your own vulnerability. You are not a player in the game. You are a resource to be farmed, a nerve to be pressed, an asset to be controlled by anyone who has the clarity to see the creature pulling your strings. The diagnosis is clear. The infection is systemic. The cost of hosting the parasite is total strategic compromise. You cannot bargain with a biological imperative. You cannot reason with a hunger. You must therefore stop thinking like a patient hoping for a cure and start thinking like a surgeon preparing for an excision. The process of becoming a conductor is not one of healing. It is a protocol of radical systematic purification. First, you must initiate a quarantine. The parasite feeds on external data: praise, criticism, approval, scorn. Your mind is currently an open wound, absorbing every contaminant from the environment. The quarantine is the act of sealing that wound. You will construct a psychological cleanroom around your core consciousness. From this moment, you will treat all external validation as a potential pathogen. When praise is offered, you will not absorb it for the parasite to feed on. You will observe it from behind reinforced glass, analyzing it for what it is: a probe from another system, a stream of data, a tactical move. It is not nourishment. It is information. When criticism is deployed against you, you will not internalize it as an attack. You will log it as an indicator of an opponent's strategy. You must starve the creature. This will be painful. The parasite will scream for its food, flooding your system with the phantom pains of insecurity and the desperate craving for social acceptance. You will feel the urge to explain yourself, to seek reassurance, to apologize for your ambition. These are the death throes of a starving organism. You must let it starve. This is the first protocol. Turn your mind from a public commons into a sealed laboratory. Nothing gets in unless you, the chief scientist, authorize it as sterile data. Second, you will begin a regimen of controlled systemic shock. A parasite that thrives in the warmth of comfort and predictability can be killed by a sudden engineered change in its environment. You must become a hostile habitat. This is not about seeking discomfort for the sake of endurance. It is a calculated form of psychological chemotherapy. You will identify the exact conditions the parasite fears most: public judgment, direct confrontation, the risk of failure, and you will inject these conditions directly into your life. You will volunteer for the presentation you dread. You will initiate the conflict you would normally avoid. You will take the calculated risk where the outcome is uncertain. But your objective is not to win in these scenarios. It is to observe. As the event unfolds, you will feel the parasite release its toxins, the hot flush of shame, the cold dread of embarrassment, the frantic impulse to retreat. Your task is to remain perfectly still, the dispassionate clinician observing a reaction in a petri dish. You do not act on the impulse. You do not soothe the fear. You simply watch the creature convulse, cataloging its responses as it is poisoned by the very environment you have created. Each exposure is a dose of medicine. You are not building courage. You are building immunity by systematically killing the parts of you that are vulnerable to disease. You are deliberately making your own internal chemistry toxic to weakness. Third, you will perform the final excision. The parasite's deepest roots are wrapped around your attachment to outcomes. It binds your identity to the concepts of winning and losing, success and failure. As long as this connection exists, it has a hold. The excision is the act of surgically severing this link. From now on, you will view every action not as a gamble, but as a procedure. A surgeon does not hope to complete an operation. He executes a series of precise practice steps. He is detached from the emotion of the outcome. His entire focus is on the flawless execution of the process. This is your new model. You do not try to win the argument. You execute the protocol for dismantling your opponent's position. You do not fear losing the deal. You execute the negotiation strategy to its conclusion. The result, success or failure, is no longer a reflection of your worth. It is simply the data produced by the procedure. It is a blood report. It is an X-ray. It informs the next procedure, nothing more. By detaching your actions from their results, you cut the parasite's final lifeline. It can no longer threaten you with failure or bribe you with success. Your actions become pure, stripped of the emotional contamination it needs to survive. This three-stage protocol, quarantine, shock, and excision, is the only antidote. It is not a path of self-improvement. It is an act of self-purification. You are not adding a new skill. You are removing a crippling vulnerability. The man who completes this regimen is not the same entity that began it. He is no longer a host, a compromised system perpetually managed by a dependent creature. He is a conductor. His mind is a sterile, frictionless channel. He is no longer exploitable because there is no longer a backdoor. There is no longer a bleeding wound for hunters to smell. There is only the cold, quiet, and impenetrable hum of a perfectly sealed machine. Having completed the purification protocol, your function is no longer defensive. It is offensive. But you will not attack in the way the infected understand. You will not use threats, intimidation, or emotional force. These are the crude instruments of the parasite. You have been re-engineered into a more sophisticated weapon. You are now a diagnostic agent. Think of a complex machine riddled with hairline fractures and hidden corrosion, invisible to the naked eye. To find the flaws, an engineer injects a contrast dye. The dye itself is inert. It does not attack the metal. It simply flows perfectly and without resistance into every unseen crack. Under pressure, it is these cracks, now vividly illuminated, that cause the system to fail. You are that dye. Your new sterile consciousness is the agent you will inject into the compromised systems of others. Your presence is now a probe. When you enter a negotiation, your silence is not passive. It is an injection of vacuum into a system that requires the noise of ego to function. The parasites in your opponents, expecting the friction of emotional reaction, will find none. Starved of this data, they will begin to talk too much. to reveal their anxieties, to expose the fractures in their own positions. You do not need to pressure them. Your non-reactivity is the pressure. Your questions are no longer for gathering information. They are for applying stress. A simple factual inquiry, delivered without a single trace of accusation or emotion, becomes a pinpoint of focused energy. Can you explain the discrepancy in these figures? It is not a request for clarity. It is a scalpel testing for a flinch. You are watching the parasite, not the man. You are observing how the creature forces its host to become defensive, to obfuscate, to lie. You are mapping their internal weakness by watching what they are compelled to protect. This is the weaponization of clarity. The reactor tries to overwhelm his enemy system with force. He is a hammer, hoping to break the machine. The conductor is a clinician. He introduces a single, pure variable into the opposing system and observes where it shatters. You do not hunt for their weaknesses. You create the precise conditions that force their weaknesses to announce themselves. You are no longer a player in their game of emotional chess. You are the board itself, and the flaws you reveal belong only to them. You have become a weapon designed to detect flaws in other systems. But the most dangerous system you will ever have to manage is your own. The Purification Protocol is not a single event. It is the beginning of a lifelong internal war. Your primary target has shifted. It is no longer the parasite. It is the ghost of the parasite. It is the residue it left in your code, the subtle corruptions that remain in your operational logic. Your mission is no longer extermination. It is a state of perpetual rigorous self-auditing. Welcome to the laboratory of the self. Here, you are both the scientist and the specimen under the microscope. The world outside is a distraction. The real work is done in this silent, internal cleanroom. This is the true meaning of self-mastery, the ruthless, unending process of optimizing your own machinery. It is governed by one law. Assume you are compromised. Your default hypothesis must be that a flaw exists. Your task is not to feel confident in your own perfection, but to hunt for your imperfections with the same cold, diagnostic precision you apply to your enemies. This audit is not passive, it is an active stress test. At the end of each day, you do not review your victories and defeats. That is the accounting of the ego. Instead, you will place your own decisions on the operating table and dissect their motives. You will ask, was my silence in that meeting a strategic application of pressure, or was it a ghost of the parasite's fear of conflict? Was that aggressive move a calculated strike, or was it driven by a residual need to appear dominant? You must cross-examine yourself with more hostility than any rival ever could. You must become your own most unforgiving critic, not to induce shame, but to find and patch the microscopic fissures in your own logic. Every other man is engaged in self-improvement. He is trying to build a better version of his old self. He adds layers of confidence, charisma, and knowledge onto a fundamentally flawed foundation. This is a fool's errand. You are not building. You are refining. You are stripping away, not adding. You are taking the purified metal of your consciousness and forging it, again and again, in the fires of brutal self-analysis, burning off any remaining dross. This is the ultimate isolation. It is not about being alone in a room. It is the state of being permanently separate from your own thoughts, observing them as a dispassionate technician. The reactor seeks comfort in his identity. The conductor finds power in having no identity left to defend, only a function to perfect. The endless audit of the self is not a path to perfection. It is a path to annihilation. You are not refining a person. You are completing a collapse. The goal is to apply so much internal pressure, to strip away so many layers of ego, hope, and identity, that what remains is no longer human in its function. It is a singularity. You are no longer a star, burning with ambition and radiating light for others to see. You have become a black hole in the human cosmos. A black hole does not hunt. It does not threaten. It does not possess malice. It is a condition of physics so extreme that it dictates the behavior of everything around it. Its power is not in what it does, but in what it is. This is your final form. Your stillness, your silence, your absolute detachment from outcomes. This is not a strategy you deploy. It is a gravitational field you now emit. The hopes, fears, and schemes of other men are like light. When they approach you, they do not reflect or illuminate. They bend, they distort, and they are extinguished. Men will not orbit you because you command them. They will orbit you because their own momentum allows no other path. They will find their plans warping in your presence. Their threats will lose velocity. Their praise will be consumed without a trace. They cannot fight you because you offer no surface to strike. You are not an obstacle in their path. You have become a fundamental distortion in the fabric of their reality. This is the end of the game. You are no longer a piece on the board, not even the king. You have transcended the game itself to become a law of its physics. You are the silent, invisible force that dictates the movement of all other pieces. You do not win. Winning is an event. You are a permanent condition, a force against which others are measured, and a void into which they inevitably fall.